Well, good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. Welcome to our council meeting this morning on March 28th. Please rise and we'll sing the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you take the roll call, please?
Councillor Mackey.
Present.
Councillor McKay. Councillor McKay is present. Councillor Carlton. Councillor Pringle sends his regrets today. Councillor McQueen. Councillor Nielsen. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Dickert. Councillor Kentner. Councillor Keaveney. Councillor Body. Councillor Gregg. Warden Milne.
Present.
Councillor DeBreen. Councillor Matrosovs.
Present.
Councillor Bourdignon.
Present.
Councillor Eccles. And Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
Thank you, Tara. I want to begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires, known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And further, we give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the traditional keepers of these lands and waters since time immemorial. To our south lies the traditional territories of the Six Nations of the Grand River. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and friendship with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest related to any item on today's agenda? Hearing none, if one should arise during the course of the meeting, you can declare it at that time. First order of business at our council meeting this morning is the adoption of the minutes of the County Council and Committee of the Whole minutes dated March 14th. Would someone care to move those, please? Councillor Eccles, Councillor Body. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The second set of minutes are the closed Committee of the Whole minutes dated March 14th. Someone care to move those? Councillor Dickert and Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. We have the Long-Term Care Committee of Management minutes dated March 12th. Councillor Keaveney and Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. We have the CAO Performance Evaluation Committee minutes dated March 13th. Councillor DeBreen, Councillor Eccles. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. We have no closed meeting matters here this morning. We have one report regarding the Grey Bruce Public Health Board of Health minutes of the January meeting. Someone care to move that, please? Receiving those. Councillor Carlton, Councillor Nielsen, and I believe, yes, there's Dr. Eric. Good morning, sir. The floor is yours if you have any comments regarding what's going on in the public health world today.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, Council. The highlight from the January 26 meeting were mainly related to opioids. The physician consultant at the time provided an update to the board on the 2023 statistics that are available. at that time in January, and the number of rates of mortality were lower than 2021. However, they were similar to 2022, which is in a way we want to see these numbers to keep coming down, but they didn't. They stayed similar to the previous year, but they didn't increase. Harm reduction work continue to be ongoing, and it's collaborative effort by all teams in Grey Bruce. And it's worth mentioning that the Ontario Public Health protocols and standards are under review, including the ones that are designed or devised to address the opioid and substance use crisis. And this review should be completed in 2024. Mr. Worden, in terms of public health updates, the most recent update is related to the measles cases in Ontario, and the number so far is 9 cases of measles reported in Ontario this year. There are no secondary cases, and in Grey Bruce there has not been any cases so far. We continue to monitor, and we will keep the county posted. This is my update, Mr. Chair. Open to questions as always.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Eccles, you have a question?
Not as much of a question, but just a little bit of a technical thing. The motion says January 6th. I think we're missing a 2 in there. The minutes are from the 26th, just to be correct.
Thank you for that. Yep. Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Carleton, you're the chair currently. Do you have anything to add? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time today as always.
Thank you.
All those in favor of receiving those minutes? That is carried. Thank you very much. We have 2 bylaws. The first is the bylaw to authorize the disposition of certain lands in the city of Owen Sound as described in Schedule A. Would someone care to move that, please? Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Body. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. The confirming bylaw is next. Someone care to move that? Councillor DeBreen, Councillor Dickert, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. News and celebrations. Anyone? I have one here to kick off. The good news from the Smart 21 communities of 2024. Grey County has been announced as one of the top 21 smart communities for the 3rd year, 2nd year in a row, but for the 3rd year. We were first designated in 2016, I believe it was. The announcement was made last week in Taipei, Taiwan. In case you're wondering, I was not there. So it's quite a range of communities from around the world. There's communities from the United States, Brazil, Australia, Turkey, Spain, Taiwan, and Canada. I have my favorite, but anyway, the county submission is featured on a combination of county-led and partner initiatives. It's another example how if we work together, we're stronger. The next stop in the journey is that the top 7 will be announced in June, and if successful, and I'm confident that Grey County will go on to the top announcement somewhere in the world. I'm lobbying for Vegas, but we'll see. Anyone else have anything they'd like to? Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Warden Milne. Just to quickly comment that past week in Grey Highlands, we had a celebration for Agnes McPhail to celebrate her birthday. It was a well-attended event. Our MPP and MP were both there, Alex Ruff and Rick Byers. Warden Milne and some members from the Southgate Council came, as well as our very Councillor Eccles and some West Grey councils. It was a great event, just celebrating a treasured member of our community, who was the first ever female member of Parliament. There was a great event held with some children putting on a play with reenacting and some historical facts and information for us. So just wanted to thank the warden and other Grey County council members for their attendance, and just mention that.
Thank you, Dane. It was indeed a good event. Great event. Anyone else? Counselor Matrosovs.
Thank you. Through you, the warden, I just want to be able to share something that will be coming up on April 25th. It is going to be the Town of Blue Mountains and Region first annual sustainability summit. And the focus of this summit is going to be on the circular economy and the green economy. So it's of particular interest to anyone in Grey County who may have an interest as a stakeholder. Perhaps they're a business entrepreneur. They'd like to know more about how they can integrate that into their own business. Perhaps it's an organization that has similar goals. So it is a free to register event that we are offering to everyone here in the region, but you do need to register in advance. And for more information about that, you can go to exploreblue.ca, and then you'll find Sustainability Summit there. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Counselor DeBreen, go ahead, please.
Good morning, County Council, Warden. I just wanted to mention that the Egremont Optimists are holding the kickoff to Maple Fest with a rib dinner on April 6th, held in Holstein. It is sure to be a crowd pleaser, and the magical burn will occur at 8 p.m. that evening. You can see me about what that is. It's magical. And also Maple Fest is coming up April 13th and 14th. Just make sure that you have that on your calendars. We hope to see you there.
Thank you, Barb. Kevin McNabb, I believe you have something to share with us. Please, come on up.
Good morning, Warden and County Council. I promise to be shorter than I was last time I was here. Thanks. I'm really pleased to be here today to recognize Teresa and a recent award that she received. And joining me is Dr. Mehta, who is our local medical director. And online, I can't see him, but I believe Dr. Davis is our regional medical director, and Julia Oliveira from the base hospital. And we have our great SOS team at the back as well joining. So happy to be here to talk about Teresa and her award. She received the Medical Director's Award of Excellence, and it's awarded to paramedics who have been recognized for excellence in EMS for the criteria, not limited to, but some of the criteria: outstanding clinical judgment and actions, leadership and participation in education or administration of activities over and above the regular clinical responsibilities, advancing the practice of paramedicine by advocating on behalf of paramedics in multiple agencies, strategic planning for the future, demonstrating outstanding initiative in proposing valid constructive changes to the current structure of EMS with the end result of adopting improvements to the current system. So we wanted to recognize Teresa, and this is a submission that was submitted on her behalf. I'm ready to nominate Teresa for the Paramedic Base Hospital Medical Director Award of Excellence. Teresa is an exemplary paramedic, community paramedic, nurse, and dedicated advocate for supportive outreach services, which delivers mental health and addictions care to our most vulnerable population. Her outstanding contributions to the field makes her an exceptional candidate for this prestigious award. Teresa's commitment to providing compassionate care to the homeless individuals dealing with mental health and addictions challenges is truly commendable. As a leader within our team, she has not only demonstrated exceptional clinical skills, but has also played a pivotal role in developing the supportive outreach program, which has had profound impact on our community. Her leadership extends beyond the field as Teresa actively engages in training paramedics, ensuring they're equipped with the knowledge and understanding of the unique needs of this population. Teresa's passion for education is further demonstrated through her presentations here at County Council, police agencies, and other healthcare providers, where she eloquently advocates for the importance of understanding and aiding this population. One of Teresa's significant achievements is her tireless efforts to reduce stigma surrounding mental health and addictions within the paramedic and leadership community. Through her education initiative, she has fostered a culture of understanding and empathy among her fellow paramedics. In summary, Teresa's exceptional leadership, dedication to support a vulnerable population, and her commitment to understanding and education make her a deserving candidate for the Paramedic Base Hospital Medical Director Award of Excellence. Her impact on the well-being of our community and the advancement of paramedicine is most notable and invaluable. I can't think of a better person to nominate for that award. I think Teresa wants to say something. That's okay.
I just want to say thank you for everyone's support. I know everyone in this room has supported SOS. I've only been a paramedic with Grey County for 4 years, and the opportunities for growth have been amazing. Never in my wildest dreams when I got into paramedicine did I think that I'd be doing street outreach, and absolutely loving it. I have most definitely found my calling. I love what I do, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity. So thank you so much. It is the greatest honor to receive this award. And I can't even imagine what's going to come for the rest of SOS as we continue to move forward. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Teresa. And if I could be so bold to say, the world needs more Teresa. Councillor Eccles.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you. There was a function that a number of county council members were at, a number of elected officials from Grey and Bruce, our MPPs on Saturday in Elmwood. The farmers meet politicians or politicians meet farmers. I'm not just sure which it goes, but it's been something that the Ontario Federation, Grey and Bruce, have put on for a number of years to expose and inform elected officials on the largest business that we have in Grey and Bruce. Well attended, a great day, and I left with knowing that there's a lot more we can do for farmers to maintain their ability to feed the country, and how much of that does come out of Grey and Bruce. So a good day, a very good day, and very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was indeed a good day. Anyone else? Okay. If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the council portion of our meeting today. Councillor Patterson and Councillor McQueen. All those in favor? That is carried. So we'll just take a minute to change over to our committee of the whole meeting. Thank you, Rob, and welcome to our committee of the whole meeting of March 28th, Grey County. Is there any declaration of interest related to any item on this agenda? Not seeing any. If one should arise, you can declare it at that time. Any business arising from these minutes or those minutes? No? Okay, good. We have a delegation this morning. Mr. James Sconiac was with us. He's the Chief Development Officer and Executive Vice President of Bruce Power. He's going to give us an update on all things Bruce Power. James, welcome.
Is that working now? Excellent. Thanks very much for having me today. It's almost the end of the week, so my voice, I'm running out of my voice. My wife usually says that means because you talk too much. But you're not allowed to say that, Mr. Warden. Just before I start with the Bruce Power update, I want to begin with a thank you and an appreciation on behalf of the employees and the broader organization at Bruce Power, to the County of Grey, the folks that work on staff, first responders, people involved in community services, and all of you as elected officials for your public service. I've had the opportunity to be at a number of delegations and a number of council meetings during my 20 years at Bruce Power, and sometimes you folks take a lot of incoming fire on things. And I think it's important, and that's part of democracy, and that's okay. But I think it's also important that we take a step back and recognize the important contributions that all of you make to public service. As certainly somebody who works as part of a large organization that works closely with all levels of government, I can tell you it really matters to doing business in Ontario. It's something that when people are looking to invest in our province and our country, that they value. So I just want to start with a thank you to all of you. By way of a Bruce Power update today, I'm not going to do a death by PowerPoint. The PowerPoint slides have been circulated, and I know there's some helpful background information in there. And I'll take that material as read, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. There's really a few items that I really wanted to anchor today's update on. And really, before I talk about Bruce Power, I really want to paint the sort of the broader electricity and energy picture, both here in Ontario, across Canada, and frankly, across the world. If you at the highest level, if you look at what all jurisdictions around the world are faced with today, and the primary drivers around this have really been the growing concern on climate change and the need to decarbonize economies, which often at times can seem at odds with how do you balance that with economic growth. And that's an issue that not only Ontario and Canada are facing, but countries all over the world are facing. But also the combination, which I think was something that has been very undervalued for a number of decades. But the Russia-Ukraine war, or Russia's invasion of Ukraine more appropriately, really exposed and brought to the top of people's attention a focus on energy security. And so all countries around the world are really dealing with this trilemma, it's often called, around affordability, economic considerations, the need to be decarbonized and fight climate change, but also the need to have energy security and reliability. And when you ask people, whether they're Ontarians, Canadians, people in Europe, people in the US, customers and the public's expectation is that all of us find a way to do all three. And unless we find a way to do all three, what we will be faced with is what I call cyclical energy policy. And in the kind of conversations that we have on energy infrastructure, it's no different than a lot of the infrastructure that you deal with in your leadership roles, whether it's our public infrastructure, our roads, schools, hospitals, all the infrastructure that was built in the 1970s and 80s that frankly we're harvesting now. The electricity sector is no different. And so the public expects us to find a way to balance all of those. But the one thing we know for sure is that we cannot make long-term solutions. We cannot advance long-term solutions if we have cyclical energy policy. Because if we have a public policy environment that is always changing its focus, it doesn't give us the kind of runway to do what we need to do in our electricity system. And I know that's sort of meat and potatoes for most people around the table, but that's very true in our business. So I'll now move to talk a bit about Ontario specifically within that context. So for the first time in a long time, Ontario's demand for electricity is growing. And that is a good sign. That means that our economy is growing. It means that we're seeing a resurgence in certain areas of manufacturing. And so a growing energy demand is not a bad thing. We want to see our economy grow. It provides us a lot of ability to tackle those challenges together. But if we take a step back and we look at where Ontario's economy is growing to by 2050, which seems like a long way off, but it really isn't in the context of public infrastructure, electricity infrastructure. By 2050, the province of Ontario is expecting between economic growth and also the need to decarbonize our economy as more people move to buying electric vehicles. And by the way, that doesn't mean everybody drives an electric vehicle, but there will be more people driving electric vehicles in the future than do today. All of these devices that we have that we plug in, data centers, battery plants, all these things. I'm hoping a resurgence in mining, for example, in Northern Ontario. All of these things will require a growing demand for electricity and a growing demand for clean electricity. And so what that means is that for our province, and you can take whatever scenario you want, Some people argue the high, the low, the medium, whatever, and I can't look you straight in the face and tell you which one it's going to be because I don't know. But every single one of the scenarios shows a significant increase in the demand for electricity. Whether it's 2 times our electricity system today, 3 times or 4 times, I don't know. But what we do know is we have a significant increase in demand. And so from a Bruce Power point of view, the most important thing that we look at when we look at that picture is to say, we need to secure what we have today first. And that's really where our investment program comes into place that we have on our site. So we generate 1/3 of Ontario's power today. And through the largest private investment in Canada's electricity infrastructure, we are looking to extend that to the 2060s and to 2070s. So that's when we often talk about refurb. Think about that as we're really going through our existing assets and making sure they can run through that period. Because if we think the energy demand issues are a challenge now, in terms of what we have to build, can you imagine what they would be if we didn't have maintained what we have today? So our first laser focus is on maintaining what we have today. And when we talk about the record investment on the Bruce Power site, that's what is underway right now. But part of maintaining what we have today is also about looking at our assets and with innovation and new technology, determining ways to run them more efficiently. When these plants were designed in the 70s and 80s, none of us had laptops or cell phones or AI. We didn't have any of those tools. And so with the modern technology that we have around advanced manufacturing, when you look at our knowledge of these plants, we believe at Bruce Power, not only will we be able to secure our units to 2060, 2070, but the output of our units will be higher. And we're going to be taking our site from what used to be in policy space, 6,300 megawatts, round number, that's 6.3 million homes, to 7,000 megawatts with the same units. And that's just really through innovation. I call it energy conservation on steroids, because all a nuclear reactor is doing is making energy, it's making a heat, and you're transferring that heat to create electricity. So if you can find ways of harvesting more of that heat, you get more power. And that's a good thing. So, most important principle is you can look at whatever the future is, but everybody agrees we for sure need what we have today. And that's what Bruce Power is really focused on. And that also includes life-saving medical isotopes. Bruce Power, our region, our province, and our country have an opportunity to really, I think, excel in Canada's historic role in being a producer of life-saving medical isotopes. And our existing assets provide not only a supply of electricity, but they really supply also a neutron source that goes along with that electricity, where we can irradiate targets and make life-saving medical isotopes. 50% of people in this room statistically are likely to get cancer in your life. 100% of us are going to be impacted by cancer, whether it's ourselves, our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues. And so we talk often about energy as flip the light switch and the light bulbs turn on. In healthcare, a form of energy is medical isotopes used to sterilize medical equipment, to diagnose cancer, and to treat cancer. So in addition to making electricity, we're providing a stable supply of isotopes that we can continue to grow. The second area I really want to focus on is what is next after refurbishment. And I'm going to butcher this analogy because you folks know this business better than I do, but I want to give a municipal example of what I think good planning is in the energy sector. If I think about a municipality that's looking to grow, that's looking to plan for the future, I think about a municipality that has a good long-term plan. And in that long-term plan, the municipality has decided, working with the county, what is zoned residential, what is zoned commercial, what is zoned industrial. Have we put the long-term utilities in place so that if and when that is needed, we're not starting from scratch. And again, you folks understand the complexities of that a heck of a lot better than I do. But what we're doing in the energy sector is no different. And what I mean by that is on our site, we've been allocated in Ontario's long-term energy plan up to an additional 4,800 megawatts of electricity from our site. So we have a large geographic site. We have existing transmission. So we have a 6,500 megawatt site today. We've been allocated up to another 5,000 megawatts. We're obviously not in a position to entertain that kind of investment right now. We have to do a technology evaluation. We have to go through a methodical process. We are a private company. We are investing the dollars of OMERS pension plan members. And I think many of those are in the room today and are representing your municipality. So we have an obligation to invest that money wisely, to be prudent, along with TC Energy and our unions who also are partners in the business. So we're not in a position today to say we're putting a shovel in the ground to build something new, but what we can do is we can plan for the future. And that's why we're launching a federal impact assessment process to essentially have our facility zoned that you could add more capacity down the road. That tends to be a 3 to 4 year process, upwards of 5 to 7. I'm not going to get into the political debate on that one. I'll leave that to you folks. But what we're doing is starting that process now. So when we get to the end of our refurbishment program and we see the developments both globally here in Ontario around this, we have our site zoned to be able to exercise that option. So we're moving the ball forward. We're doing good long-term planning. But not only are we doing a permitting process, but we have to recognize that our partnership with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, in the event anything different was done in the future, they were not consulted in the initial construction of the site. There's a legacy issue there. So we're also committed to doing things differently the next 50 years than were done the last 50 years. Bruce Power didn't exist when all that happened, but that's not an excuse that we can't do things better and different going forward. The other component that's really important alongside that is working with our counties, our municipalities, the provincial and the federal government on what are all of the, you can't just build a nuclear plant in isolation. What are all the things we need to do with our supply chains, with our public services, with our infrastructure to support that? And so we really think taking the next 3 to 5 years to do that early planning, it allows us to focus on our core operations and our life extension program, but it allows us to move the ball forward in a methodical way. And I'm a big believer in you go slow to go fast. And if you do the right things up front, it provides you a lower risk, more viable project later. If you look across the country at the large electricity infrastructure projects that have run into issues, it has not been technical issues that have stopped these projects. It has been community acceptance. It has been working with the public, Indigenous communities. It's been NIMBYism in a lot of cases. And we are a believer that the way to work through that is by engaging early. And so that by the time you get to, you're making a decision, all facts are known. And so that's really so I know there's a lot of excitement. Many members of council were there for our Bruce C announcement. It was an exciting day, but it is also, we need to recognize that even though there's this big opportunity, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And we are taking this step-by-step approach because as the dynamics change with electricity and energy in Canada and Ontario, we will be able to scale accordingly. So that's really what we have underway on the Bruce site. It's a very exciting time. We, as I like to say, we are doing things that have never been done before. And we're able to do that because of our strong partnerships with our organized labor partners, with our supplier partners. And I can't say enough about our employees that live in all your communities. They are, I grew up in Port Elgin. I still live in Port Elgin, and you get to know people because you bump into them at the hockey arena or the grocery store. And we're just people that live in the community, and we go to work and we try our best. But what always amazes me is somebody that you may bump into at a hockey arena or the grocery store, and they say, "Hey, I work up at Bruce Power." When you see what they do at Bruce Power, it's amazing. Whether they're tradespeople, whether they're maintenance people, whether they're engineers, whether they're scientists, operators, it is amazing what happens in our sector. And so I always say we're not in the technology business, we're in the people business. The difference between a nuclear plant that runs well and not is not the technology. It's the people that run that plant. And those are your constituents in your community. So they appreciate your support. They appreciate the engagement. But what I would also say is part of being supportive of what we're doing at the Bruce site is when we're looking at the future is also talking about the challenges, talking about affordable housing, talking about infrastructure, talking about the opioid crisis, talking about these items. I'm not going to suggest for a second Bruce Power is the answer to those solutions, but what I can promise you 100% of the time is we are a contributor to the solution. So countries or communities all over Canada have these same challenges that we do. That's not, the issues we're dealing with here are not uncommon. But what is unique about this region is the fact that we have a lot of partnerships and opportunities that other communities don't. And so that's what I always say. It's not because affordable housing is an issue everywhere, doesn't mean it's something that, yeah, it just is what it is. It means it's something that we have a unique opportunity to leverage what we have here to make it better. And you have our commitment to that. So I probably have used up my 10 minutes. I will stop there. I'd be happy to answer any questions that are in the slides. Any questions you have about energy in Ontario, be careful. If you ask me a question about energy in Ontario, I'm going to blow through your meeting agenda with time, but you asked the question, so it's not my fault.
Well, thank you, James. Certainly appreciate your time here. And you mentioned the isotopes. I'm about halfway through your podcast. There's 10 of them there. They're very interesting. Although I have to admit the technical language sometimes is way over my head, but it's very interesting. So I'd encourage anybody that wants to know what that's all about to listen to those podcasts. The other thing I wanted to do, James, was just before I go to questions from council, is I want to acknowledge the leadership award that Bruce Power awarded to me. I appreciate that. It's quite an honor, I have to say, and I apologize that I wasn't there to actually receive it, but thank you so much anyways. Since at least 2016, Bruce Power has led many initiatives that have brought municipal partners together. And here in Grey County, we're committed to, continuing on that path of partnership and taking action in the clean energy sector, the isotopes, what have you. In your opinion, James, how do you think, or how can you see Grey County Council in particular continuing to support Bruce Power, yourself, and indeed the community to do the things, the many meaningful things that you just talked about?
No, it's a great question. So the first thing I would say is that and I'm a pretty straight shooter. I'd say if it was the case otherwise, in Grey County, whether it's at the county level, whether it's at the municipal or city level, I think the leadership approach of not keeping score is really important. And I think this county and this table exhibit that. A lot of the items we're trying to bring to our region are bring it from another country to Canada, bring it from Canada to Ontario, Ontario to rural Ontario to here. And so I think that one team approach, I can't emphasize enough how important that is. So the first thing I would say is keep doing what you're doing, because that leadership is exceptional and it's very clear. And people that come that want to do more business in our area, they want to invest, they want to move their family here, that matters to them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I think we as a team, a regional team, between working with our provincial and federal level of governments, there's an opportunity for us to team up more. The issues that are important to Grey County that you are advancing at the federal and municipal, the federal and provincial level are important to us. They're important to our workers. Our schools getting built, our hospitals getting built. Are we getting affordable housing? Some of these public health issues. So what I would say is always, it's really about you putting it back on us. Always recognize the things you are concerned about. Never doubt that they're important to us. When we need support for the areas of energy policy, you are there for us. I can't ask for more than that. But we are a partner on those issues that come across your desk. And what I can tell you is, as Canada's largest private sector infrastructure project, don't underestimate how important this region is to Canada and the world. And we should leverage that. There's a lot of funding out there available for infrastructure and all these different programs. And it's very important that we get our fair share. It is really important because we are generating a lot of economic and strategic activity for Canada. And we need to see some of that come back. Doesn't mean all of it comes back, but some of it needs to. So I would just say we are always a partner. If you're sending grant applications in, if we can write letters of support, if we can go to meetings, we are always there for that. And I think that's an area we can do more on.
Excellent. Thanks, James. Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Ward, and thanks, James, for your presentation and always being a friend in Grey County, which you always are, along with Bruce. I just want to thank you for the support you do give to the community events and funding that you do provide there. I know our local rodeo that we have in Beaversham, you support that along with many functions throughout Grey and Bruce and abroad. And I think the community really, I know they do really appreciate what you do there. And I know that the economic impact that Bruce Power does through our areas is next to none, because you just spoke to that and how it all trickles down to the people that work there and everything comes out of that. So my question is going to be more focused on certainly expanding nuclear, as we know that's been a proven case here in Canada, because we as the municipalities are being approached with, we have the renewable part, and now it's battery storage and lithium batteries and all that issues that we are dealing with. And so I guess my question is to you is, I know that's in the mix, but obviously, and we all know that everybody expects to turn that light switch on, because when it doesn't come on, your neighbor's calling, is your hydro out? Is your hydro out? Because everybody expects that to be coming on. And certainly with the business that you're in, it's reliable, it's there. You don't hear nothing until lights don't come on. As we know, back in 1998, the ice storm, that was sort of a time when the lights didn't come on for a number of days and that type of thing. So from that, where do you see that going? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. And subsequent to that is, we have a broad landmass of Canada, and we talk about decarbonization. And my second part, where do you see the smaller nuclear systems, like from the north and areas that are outside of that? Because a lot of the areas of generation is through carbon, through diesel generation and that kind of stuff. So I guess in the sense of moving forward, and you sort of touched the base, to 2050, and we know we're going through that electrification through Ontario, and that it's going to take, I think it's going to be challenges getting there. But so your idea around renewables and the business that you're in, and secondly, with that small systems of nuclear, that I think personally that is a solution, because it's a proven fact of how that works. So thank you, Mr. Ward.
Firstly, it's a really good question. So to really, and you never put me on the spot. I love it. So, and I can't get in trouble for saying something I shouldn't, because you asked. So, so what I will do is, after this, I will circulate a report. We're going to be updating it in a month. A green ribbon panel that I had the privilege of chairing with a broad range of unions, economic groups, Ontario Chamber of Commerce, business groups, and it looked at exactly your question. I'll just tell you where my bias is I think sometimes when we don't want to make big decisions, we convince ourselves that incremental technologies that are important. Like, I'll tell you, I'm not an energy snob. We need it all. Like, we need it all. The question is, what's the mix? And what I would say is it is easy to make decisions that put off big, large projects and think some of these more, let me call incremental, rounding the edges projects are going to replace that. So for me, if I think of what has always worked in Canada and what has always worked elsewhere in the world, is reliable baseload nuclear, as much hydroelectric as we can get. That's been Canada. Like, Canada has one of the best, cleanest electricity systems in the world. Why? It's either hydro or nuclear. And the challenge we have when you decarbonize is what fossil fuels are really good at is peaking, right? Like, it's like your furnace at home. It's cold. I turn the gas furnace on. So fossil fuels are really good for peaking. So what the energy system needs to do is, we need to build out that large volume, that large baseload, and we have to use a mix of technologies to reach the peaking. But anybody that thinks we're not going to have any fossil fuels in our electricity system, that's not realistic either, right? We've already taken coal out. We need to continue to reduce natural gas, and the goal is to get to net zero. And I'm a nuclear person, so I want as much, but that's where we need to have that honest debate. But you will not find a country in the world that is relying on renewables and batteries. You won't. You'll find countries that rely on nuclear and hydro, or they rely heavily on fossil fuels. And so for me, it's simple. And the big decisions are really important. as I say, I'm very privileged, my generation, that my grandparents' generation made a lot of decisions to build the Bruce site and to build the transmission infrastructure and to build the school I went to and I benefit from that now. And look at, we're talking about extending these to 2070. So I'll send that report around through the proper channel, and I'd be happy to discuss it further. But this really gets at that question.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Body.
Thank you, Warden Milne. I'm going to have two questions, but I was just thinking, net zero by 2050, and all of us around this table remember that Y2K, will our computers start? Like, that's 24 years ago. Goes by quickly, and think we're going to be there by 2050. It's going to come that fast. Maybe it won't be us around the table, but our kids are going to be there. So it's going to happen fast, and there is a lot that has to be done. So James, two questions. You talked about private investment. Do we get to net zero without private investment, just relying on public investments? My one question. The other one is more around, you talked about using fuel to hit peaks, and I think I've got this tank of stuff in the back of my car that's pretty easy to move around, and then it's always there. Right now, I know you're producing a surplus amount of energy during certain times of the day. Other times of the day in Ontario, we have more than 50 gas-powered generating plants that are feeding electricity into to cover the peak at late day, midday. How are we going to take advantage of the surplus energy? Like, obviously storage is what it's all about, whether it be battery pump storage, hydrogen technologies that we've never even thought about. It seems to me that storage, the use of surplus in that storage is going to be a big part of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, the first question I'll answer is on the investment front. When you look at the size of the need, and I think you see this in other areas of infrastructure that you deal with every day, the private sector can't do it all on its own, and the public sector can't do it on its own. So we have to find a way, and this is where I look at partners like OMERS. For those of you that are OMERS pension plans, you look at where OMERS is investing their money in Canada. There's a lot of discussion in the federal budget about, pension investment. OMERS is a model for pension investment in Canada. So the private sector and that kind of investment is really important, and we can't get there without it. But it's going to take both. The size of the challenge is so significant. So, I always say, I'm not ideological about it. It's about taking the best of where the public service provides, the public sector provides, and the private sector. You bring a public-private partnership like we have at Bruce. So I'm a big believer in that. And I just look at it practically, not ideologically. So I agree with that. On your question on storage, I was asked coming in here about, there was some feedback that I had heard, and I'll just hit the nail on the head that there was some feedback floating around that, there was competition between what we're looking to do at Bruce and this project in Meaford that's looking at pump storage that's led by TC Energy. And what I can tell you is, firstly, there is no competition. I can set that straight right now. Storage is very complementary with nuclear, right? So storage is really your only way to replace the peaking component of fossil fuels, right? Because in the absence of that, you need something to, when people turn their air conditioning on, as much as you have people conserved, there is always going to be peaks in the winter and the summer. Remember Quebec years ago saying, we want to forget nuclear, we're going to sell power to Ontario? Well, we're proud to have helped them out the past winter so they didn't have a blackout. And I say that tongue in cheek because sound bites can get us in trouble. And storage is very important. And we see storage like the TC Energy project as not in competition at all. In fact, it's complementary. But these are big decisions. I talk about those generational decisions. These are big decisions. And I know they're challenging. And I know there's a lot to think about. But when have we ever built a subway in Ontario, a nuclear plant in Ontario, a transmission line in Ontario, a hospital in Ontario, and look back 50 years later and said that was a mistake? Like, I can't think of an example. Now, there's always challenges and lessons to be learned. So to answer your question directly, I did want to, somebody brought that up to me coming in. There is no competition between the projects. In fact, the exact opposite. And when you think of what works, water and gravity is pretty certain. I don't need to import critical minerals from China for water and gravity. And maybe I'm being too simple. So, you know, it's not my place to speak, you know, on TC Energy's project. They're an owner, and I respect that. And Bruce Power has two owners, but I did want to set the record straight on that. And in fact, I think it's the opposite. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir. Well, I think we've had a really good discussion. And James, again, I want to appreciate your time. I wrote down go slow to go fast, especially when you're eating an elephant. So good things to live by. So thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time again. Thank you. Okay. Enough about going slow, fast, and eating big elephants. Chocolate elephants. Yeah, if you can't afford it. We have the consent agenda there for your consideration. Is there any determination of items requiring separate discussion? Councillor Body?
Thank you. If we could pull 6B, which is the Godrich's letter with regard to Roma and Ogra, I'd like to do more than, I'd like to discuss doing more than just receiving.
Okay, Councillor Eccles?
Thank you. And 6F, I believe, is around the tender award. I think that's the one.
It is. Thank you. All right, we'll discuss those. We have one item for direction and discussion. Or is there any further reports needing to be pulled? Okay, someone would care to move that we receive the balance of those items? Councillor McQueen, Councillor Mackey. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. As I say, we have one item for direction and discussion. That is the county strategic plan. Would someone care to move that motion there that it be adopted as presented? Councillor Dickert and Councillor Nielsen. Do we need a break? We're good? Okay. CEO Wingrove is going to present this one. Yeah, we may need a break after this one. We'll see.
Up here. Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Good morning, Council. I'm so pleased to be here this morning to present our updated 2024 to 2027 Grey County Strategic Plan, Working Together for Success. This plan is built on the belief that success requires both collaboration and cooperation. And for the first time since we started doing strategic plans back in 2012, this plan takes a regional approach to some of the biggest challenges facing our communities. It builds on earlier plans and the recommendations in recent approved plans and strategies. This plan will inform and focus the departmental work plans and the allocation of resources to activities. We've updated, apologies. By way of background, I think we all went through a number of steps earlier this year. And I did want to just quickly reference the fact that after the workshop that we had at the end of August, we drafted a version of the plan, but I held back from bringing it forward for you until we got through the budget, just to make sure that we were still in good alignment, that I didn't need to come back and ask any big questions of this council. So I think that
we have stayed true to the direction, the goals and the objectives that you gave to us and talked about together at the end of August. And so the result of that is the plan that you see on your desks this morning. We revisited when we got together to discuss this, we revisited our purpose and values. And I think this really does a great job of capturing our conversation. Grey County is committed to the coordinated delivery of responsive and cost-effective services that strengthen the economic, social, environmental, and cultural well-being of the diverse communities we serve. Our values are integrity, collaboration and equity, and sustainability. And I think those will be, you'll see that those are reflected throughout this document. The plan's organized around 4 pillars. As with earlier plans, we've got an ambitious work plan with 76 unique initiatives to complete and move us toward achieving our goals. The plan is evergreen in that as things are completed, new actions will take their place, as there'll always be ways that we can improve and always new opportunities for us to consider about whether or not we wish to pursue them. I plan to continue the annual late fall update report to summarize progress and challenges and to seek your guidance on any required adjustments. In addition, we want to make sure that this plan is well communicated. There's a specific page on the county's website that deals with the strategic plan and keeps all of the associated plans and reports are there as well. So there's a single place to be able to look at all of this. We intend to communicate out with your support this morning. We'll communicate out to the public that the plan has been refreshed and is available for people to review, as well as talking to our staff in more detail. So the first priority in the strategic plan is about ensuring our operations are running efficiently and effectively. And this has been a consistent thing that we've always had in our plans, was about making sure that our internal operations were where we needed them to be. I think we remain steadfast in our commitment to continuous improvement, and that for this particular plan, the goals and objectives here reflect our current realities. And that's why it focuses on cost containment and improving access to service and improving quality through innovation. So you can see some of the highlights there. When we think about the kind of activities that we're focused on around internal operations and service delivery, you know, the reduction of risk and reliability. But we've had a lot of conversations around this table about IT security, about the need just at our last meeting about making sure that we're on top of what's happening on our construction sites. With regard to safety. Enhancing quality and customer service means things like providing access to service requests on a number of different channels, having project management resources and processes in place. Our financial forecasting and reporting items. Right now, we're implementing the new budget software, and this year we've started the new budget committee to consider in greater detail throughout the year how the county revenues and expenses, what they are and how they're being managed. Cost containment, about sharing assets, right sizing, sharing procurement, all of those different things are part of the considerations under internal operations and service delivery. The second pillar of the plan is building communities for the future. This pillar is outwardly and future focused. What do we need to be doing now, as James said just a few minutes ago, to make sure that we'll be healthy and successful 10, 20, and 50 years into the future? The goal here is to collaborate across the county to create and implement plans, programs, and infrastructure investments to support resident quality of life and business success. I've noted a few of the pieces here. Planning and infrastructure. We often think about things like the roads task force or the coordination of infrastructure projects. But in our case, it's even broader than that when we think about building paramedic bases in the right places for the future, or ensuring that the childcare system is adequate for what our families need. Economic development and tourism and culture is about not only investment, but also retention of businesses in the county and promoting the four-season economy. Protecting our environment is reducing our emissions, energy conservations, and, you know, doing the best that we can for our forests, our trails, and our waterways. And finally, First Nations reconciliation and relationship building is part of building our communities for the future. We have committed to doing a lot of learning. Recently, we talked about the land acknowledgements. We're training our staff, cultural safety training, and looking for new partnerships with our First Nations communities. Moving on from there, and the third pillar is workforce development. And this is one that I am really excited about. And I hope that you share that excitement around the potential benefits that we can see from Pillar 3. Again, as James he stole my speech. As James talked about how important it is to have the right people, the right skills in the right places. It's so critical to making the difference between good and great. I've been working together with your CAOs and they with their directors. As a team, we want our organizations to be the best that we can be. And much of the work that happens in this pillar, I think, will likely be into next year. Some of our resources are pretty taken up with the Dayforce implementation here at county. But where we want to go with this is to plan intentionally to understand what our human resource needs are, and then to grow people's skills and give them opportunities to learn new roles and advance in their careers without having to bleed. So where can people have opportunities to work between your municipalities, to work at the county, as well as getting experience at the lower tier? I think everybody having the best possible understanding of how each other's organizations work and where there are best practices or opportunities to improve, those are well understood. That's so much at the heart of what the workforce development plan is meant to be. I mentioned it in the staff report that accompanies this. You're all aware of some of the recruitment challenges that we face in specific skill areas. We have a lot of retirements coming up, and we want to make sure that we don't drop the ball when it comes to being able to keep up our service delivery and keeping to the standards that we hold ourselves to. The final pillar of the report is called Giving Everyone a Place to Call Home. And this is really all about improving access to housing for all of our residents. We talked a lot about this a number of different times last year about the need to increase the availability of housing options across the whole continuum and across the whole county. We've heard that this year, Anne Marie and her team will be creating a new 10-year housing and homelessness plan. We have a housing action plan that talks about attainable housing. There's a discussion, I think, about what a regional approach to attainable housing looks like, and we'll be having some discussions about that at an upcoming meeting. And I think there's a lot of important work that we can do here, both as municipalities, but also, again, continuing to understand what it is that the private sector needs and wants to be able to move forward to expand those housing options for us. So as far as monitoring and evaluation, a plan is only good if you are keeping track of what's happening with it and what your progress has been like around getting to meeting your objectives. All of this work is built into the work plans of the members of the senior management team and myself. There are very specific initiatives that are measurable scoped them so that they would be achievable and that they would have a beginning and an end date. I have quarterly progress review meetings with the senior management team. I meet with the CAO evaluation team to be able to update them. And then, as I said, the annual meeting late in the fall where we bring an overall report back to all of you to talk about where we've been and where we need to go for the future. I think it's always important to acknowledge that with any plan, there are risks and challenges. And so this plan is based on the best information that we have available to us, but there are always economic uncertainties and cost pressures that come into play and may cause us to, need to take a second look at a particular initiative. Organizational capacity and resilience needs to be carefully managed. Your staff, as well as the staff here at the county, have very full plates. And when we do things, we want to do them right and we want to do them well. And so that means that some of the work needs to be appropriately phased. Some of the work that we're doing here belongs to partners that are outside of our own organizations. And we've come to understand, I think more of this recently than ever, that many of our external partners are as maxed as we seem to feel sometimes. So ensuring that our contracts are properly written and appropriately managed, I think, is a really important part of ensuring that we're successful. Public engagement and support, again, to a point that James made earlier this morning. Some of the things that we're working on really do require an ongoing conversation with the public to ensure that they understand and are as committed to moving forward with these initiatives as we ourselves are. And finally, there are always unforeseen legislative or regulatory changes that may cause us to take a different direction, either because they're incentivizing a different direction or simply that things need to change. So the council resolution before you this morning is to receive the plan and then adopt it as it's been presented. But as always, I welcome any questions or any comments that you might want to provide this morning. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I was going to see if anybody else was wanting to go first, but thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Madam CEO. Just going back on housing, we the Grey Highlands had a committee of the whole meeting on housing, and we had a presentation from a representative from the town of Collingwood, Claire, if you remember from the housing summit that we had last October, I think, in Meaford there. She went further to discuss about the ADUs and what they're doing, and they're actually moving forward with grant both from town of Collingwood and the county of Simcoe to with regards to ADUs and small units to be accommodated in that. It was really, I found quite interesting. I think our council was very engaged on that. And how do we streamline the availability of moving that forward is one part of the ability to have some affordability from that part. I mean, as we all probably are starting to be aware, Amazon is coming out with a house in the box. But yeah, I'm not sure how that comes on a trailer, Scott, or whatever, but on behind the Purolator truck. But I had a call from an individual last night that there are individuals here in Grey County that are looking at building that type of modular type home that is maybe a green stamp on it, that also is a plus, but also looking forward to that part of that ADUs or accommodating somehow entry level. Like I was at the Cottage and Life show there last Friday, and I can circulate to everybody where you can buy, I don't know, like a 400, 500 square foot little house for around $100,000. You just need the planning ability to put it somewhere. So it's happening. There's so many different aspects of that entry level, a room over your head, because the affordability, as we all see, is, until there's more supply, it's not going to change. And just, so I think there's a lot we can build on through our planning and just, it came as a conversation yesterday in our meeting where the prohibiting mobile homes maybe Keene back in the fifties because it was not my backyard. People did not want that. That just was the thing. And NIMBYism, as even James talks about, is, you know, we're gonna move past that. And also, the announcement this week with regards to the the provincial budget with regards to continuing with funding for infrastructure is something that, you know, the water and sewer and that type of thing, I think we need to continue to take advantage or however of that. And as James said, we need to get our fair share in this area as well. So just a few comments, Mr. Warden, but I think we have to keep looking at that because I think it addresses a lot of your other parts is workforce, right? You get, you know, they have a place to live and all that. Also, if it also works for those that are downsizing, frees up that 2,500 square foot, 3-bedroom house for a family that allows people to move somewhere, right? Whatever mix of housing that is. So anyway, just a couple comments, Mr. Warden, and we need to keep pushing on that housing part because I think it helps accommodate a lot of other things that are in the plan.
Thank you for those comments, and that, I think that's really important. Liz Buckton, our housing policy planner, has been, I think, working on the housing action plan. I don't know if Randy or Scott, you want to make any further comments at this time, or will we just wait for the report? Okay, so we, as I say, there's some good work happening and we are coming with an update to council very soon. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kim. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, Councillor Greg.
Thanks, Warden. I guess I'll be somewhat direct. I'm quite frustrated with the document and how we got here today. I'm uncertain when I read this, when it was posted, as to why we had the session at the Inn on the Bay and at Holstein last year, because when I first read through here and it said refer to the website for details to inform how we got here, there's 15 or 20 plans that were pre-existing on the website that are tiles there. So I thought, am I missing something? Am I missing the information sessions or the information that came out of those sessions? Why did we have the sessions? Why did we pay the consultant $40,000 approximate dollars to put this plan together to essentially just draw out of staff a bunch of recommendations that are already in those reports that are all the tiles on the website? So I found it very frustrating to see how we landed here today with this document and what we went through. We've told the public that we went to the public, who we represent, and then we had the sessions at the Inn on the Bay and at Holstein, and it's uncertain to me how we incorporated any of that feedback back into this document. I was expecting appendices or some form of informative steps here that would tell us how we've landed here. So my personal opinion is that it would be nice to have more information to inform how we've exactly landed here that's beyond just the existing plans that are on the website, unless I'm missing something, which you can certainly correct me if I am missing something along the way, but everything drove you back to the website, to the tiles that are there. So that's my feelings is frustration, I guess, to the process and to the outcome. And I'm not sure how any of this represents any of the sessions in the last year from the public or from council. Because if it's council's document, the strategic plan is from the public through council, through to CAO and staff to implement. And this is pre-existing plans, taking recommendations and going back up. And it looks like kind of just fulfilling departmental wants. So that I guess that's my frustration is the process.
I'm afraid I'm not perhaps understanding. The document as it stands reflects the feedback that we received, that I and staff received, and the conversations that we had during the sessions. about what council felt was important to them and the goals and objectives that they wanted to see us taking action on. What were the most important things that, the most important questions, the most important challenges that the county needed to take action on? I think the, certainly from a staff perspective, when we put various initiatives into a plan like this, I think what we're trying to demonstrate to the public is that we are not moving forward with anything of our own initiative. There's nothing in here that hasn't been to council for some discussion, for support or approval or resources. And I think so that's part of it, is that those plans and recommendations are there to demonstrate that we've done a lot of homework and that information has been to council. It's been adopted, whether as it was originally drafted or as it was asked to have been revised. And then when we discuss, there's a tremendous amount, as you know, a tremendous amount of work that happens in any given year. And this process of kind of distilling that down and saying, these are the pieces that we feel need to take priority, is what you see reflected here. Is there something in the report? Is there something in the plan that you feel is either missing or is not what you feel that the public would or yourselves wouldn't support?
Well, I think you've identified for me my uncomfortableness with approving it today is that there's not clarity to identify the incorporation of the commentary from the survey, from the public, from council. It looks like a great big leap from an afternoon in Holstein, where we last met, to this document. So I think it's just the lack of clarity. I understand that staff have incorporated that, but it's not really evidenced well how it differs from what might be in the pre-existing work plans or already in some of these master plans. A lot of these items I'm already familiar with, because I'm like, well, that's just out of someone's master plan here and this master plan there. And I'm like, we didn't need a strategic plan for that. What's changed? What occurred last year in terms of hearing from council that has altered direction in any way, shape, or form? So I guess you've kind of identified it. It's just the lack of clarity. Walking through the input from the consultant, I'm uncertain as to what role the consultant has parlayed from what they heard to this document here. So those are my comments. Thanks.
I wonder if it's a case of the tyranny of the many. There are quite a number of reports that we've seen as council from the past that identify issues that need attention. But we as a group can't do them all. They're all important, but we can't prioritize them all because there's only 24 in a day. So I think this is a masterful attempt to winnow that down, if you want to put it that way, into what are the priorities amongst all these other important things. So at least that's my take on it. And I'm, whether you agree what the priorities as set out in this document are or not, as a group, that's what staff have seen as the 4 priorities or pillars from the council and from all the other input that has gone into this document. But anyway, Kim, I'll let you if you have anything further.
Well, again, I think that the most significant concern that I have is there something missing here? If there's something missing here, then I need that so that I can take that back and figure out how to adjust things so that we have the appropriate time and resources and plans in place to ensure that whatever that missing thing is, it gets addressed. That to me is job one. I can certainly, if you were interested to see the summary notes, the information that was put on our poster boards at the, you know, on the bay and stuff like that. That I had all of that background information is there, but that's not something that we would normally share because it's big and messy. And so we're trying to, you know, give you something that's clean and organized and tidy. So, you know, there's absolutely nothing to hide here. People want to see notes or anything like that, we can share them. But if there's something missing, I would like to understand what that is so that it can be addressed.
And for me, it's just that. It's not the notes in specifics. It's the refining of what staff have heard that led to these themes, like the creation of those themes. So that's the part that I'm just not comfortable with. Is it's just a big leap from here to here, and the absence of anything that's refined the process from my seat, from my perspective to this point. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Body and then Councillor Kentner.
Thank you, Warden Milne. Kim, I think one of the things that's missing, you know, what specifically is missing is something that came up from several of us. It wasn't just me, was municipal restructuring, and whether that's boundary change, whether that's shared services. There's ways to become more efficient, and it came from several of us that day that I don't see in here. I raised it a couple of weeks ago, somewhat tongue in cheek at one of our meetings here, and I think it was a warden of somewhere up there that the answer came back that it's going to be in this, you know, the strategic plans coming. It's not in there. I think that's one of those things that should be in the strategic plan that we should be thinking about is how do we become more efficient, upper level, lower level, working together, whether it is boundary adjustments that I think we should look at or just service sharing that I think needs to be in there, and I don't see it there. So I was a little disappointed when I read it for the same reason.
Through you, Mr. Warden, there is work ongoing right now to look at the delivery of services and the sharing of services. I would suggest that at this early stage, it's not explicit here because of the fact that you're working with people and we need to proceed in an orderly fashion when it comes to looking at those things. With regard to the overall municipal restructuring, that is a triple majority situation in some cases. In others, it's much more simple thing about willing partners. We've never had a report in this term of council to do with restructuring, although it has been discussed in the past. I can certainly adjust this report to reflect the desire of this council to bring forward a staff report that discusses municipal restructuring and asks for council direction in that regard.
And thank you for that. It's sort of a chicken and egg thing in a sense that you're not putting it in the strategic plan because we don't have something already there. From my point of view, we haven't brought that motion because I thought it was going to be in there. You know, we've got less than 3 years to go in this term. It seems like we've taken a kick at that can or discussed it or not discussed it or left it floating in the air perhaps for a few terms that I've been up here. But we're not getting there. So I thought it would be in there. The fact that things are ongoing is great. But that means that it should be in our strategic plan in a sense. I understand why specifics wouldn't be set out. But the fact that there is a willingness or that we're moving in a certain direction as a strategy, I think should be in the strategy plan. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I hope I am. I think it should be there somehow. And it should be something that we work towards, or, you know, I guess it's on us now to perhaps bring a motion and put it on the table. But I think it should be in there somewhere as a strategy to at least look at and make us all more efficient is my thinking. Thanks.
I will, if council is in agreement, I will make an amendment to the plan to specifically mention a discussion of municipal restructuring. With regard to the restructuring of the delivery of specific services, that work is ongoing, and you will see at least one report on that topic before July this year.
Councillor Kentner.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you, I also spoke to restructuring at the sessions that we had, and it wasn't a popular subject, but my concern is that I don't see much prospect of change in provincial government for the foreseeable future, and there is definitely a lot going on at that level about restructuring things as far as municipalities are concerned. So my point was just simply that we should be ready and be advancing our best ideas on how restructuring might happen, as opposed to receiving a report and being behind the 8 ball on it. But I want to say this is a great document. I understand it perfectly. We turned out our own document in Meaford, but we didn't hire consultants because we already had the pillars. And from what I can see, we already had the pillars here. It was just how we build on them. And I think that the most useful exercises were those where we were together and were able to chat it up and discuss these things. But we did that in Meaford without hiring consultants, and we came away actually with 16 projects that all support our pillars, but are things that we're going to try and accomplish in this term. And as I say, I have no criticism of the report, but I think that we should think more often, is this something that we really need a consultant for? Because I don't feel I think we could have done this ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you, through you, Warden, and to some of the questions, and I'm just wondering if some of the support documents if the question is how do we communicate to the public if the public were accessing the website to determine, okay, here's all this, and we talked about all of this, but we have to focus it in. We can't do it all. So all those Post-it notes, that big, wonderful mess, big, audacious goals had to be streamlined in. My other question is for some of these services where we were talking about potentially looking at regional services, regional reorganization of the community, and just at a quick glance, we have planning efficiencies, we have master plans with member municipalities, we have regional waste management assessment and assessing the potential for countywide waste management services, creating policies for staff secondments. I think in that will also encompass that regional review. And if out of those things comes some reorganization. I don't think that, I don't think the lack of it being stated in the document implies that we're not looking at that. All of these little pieces are part of that puzzle. I want to thank staff for trying to take that big, beautiful mess that we came up with at Bayshore and at Holstein. We're not going to agree on all of the priorities, but it was clear when you saw, you know, a bunch of Post-its in one section and a few on another that's where we generally want the focus. We're not all going to agree. So thank you to staff. I think that we have the start of, and as you said, it is very flexible and it's going to change and our priorities may change. And that's why we're going to do this annually, to review those priorities and say, well, based on what the province has just brought down, or based on what we've learned through this process, we will have a better idea of how to get there. So thank you. And thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. So Councillor Nielsen, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Warden Milne. You know, as we're having a conversation and to what Councillor Body has brought up regarding the restructuring conversation, you know, Kim's response is that if there's a consensus that should be part of this plan. I don't know if there is a consensus. We had these conversations that were kind of brainstorming sessions. I didn't see 9, 10, 12 council members saying, yes, that we need to have these conversations. I know we're having discussions to what Councillor DeBreen just brought up regarding certain service levels and how we can align certain services. But that to me doesn't say restructuring. I think if Grey County puts out a strategic plan that it details that our goal as a county is to move towards restructuring, we're telling our lower tiers, we're coming to tell you what to do. And I don't think that's the way we want to go. I haven't seen those conversations at a lower tier. And I mean, I've been here for just over a year and maybe I haven't had the same experience as Councillor Body as to the conversations that have taken place here. But I don't want to see a strategic plan that's coming forward suggesting, you know, municipal restructuring when there's no conversations happening at that lower tier supporting that. To me, it would feel the same pressure we're seeing from the province that comes to us and says, we're going to tell you what to do, trickling down that effect. And so I don't think I'm comfortable with saying, let's add restructuring conversations as part of our strategic plan moving forward. Councillor DeBreen just pointed out, there's a few parts in here that are speaking to strategic goals and alignments and how do we become more efficient as a county and as lower tiers. But there's no emphasis here suggesting a realignment or restructuring of the system that we have now. So I think I myself at least wouldn't be prepared to say, let's add restructuring in terms of the strategic plan. I don't think I'm ready for that. I think there needs to be a further conversation here at this council table, as well as our lower tier municipalities before that's something we should be putting.
Thank you, sir. Any other? Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Kim, you know, thanks very much to you and all the staff. I think the report strategic plan is generally reflective of what I recall from the sessions that I attended, even though we may not all agree on some specific initiatives or where they should rank. I think is reflective of the majority, the consensus that was obtained at those sessions. Restructuring, there is potential merit in looking at restructuring. I'm not sure it needs to be added to the strategic plan today. I don't think the work's been done by this council and full discussions have occurred at this council, nor could I support it right now, not having a discussion at the lower tier. You know, you mentioned the triple majority. Before we start doing anything, I think we'd have to have a more of a consensus around the room that this is a topic that we seriously want to look at. Shared services certainly could go into the document. I don't think there's any of us that don't think shared services is something we need to look at where it makes sense. So that would be as far as I could support. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Councillor McQueen.
Just winding things back here a little bit. Again, I want to thank staff for what they brought forward. I mean, it's a guideline. Things happen every day that sometimes, you know, divert us to focus on something else. But I look back you said, you know, our first one was 2012, for you, Mr. Warden, is somebody had the envision of having gray routes. I think that's a huge asset that we have today. Paved shoulders. All our roads are, you know, have the widened shoulders. Right? And that's proved to be a very beneficial thing. Long-term care, you know, other things that we, you know, I think James said it earlier on, that people ahead of us made decisions that reflect today. And obviously it's going to be evolving and it's going to be changing as time goes on. You know, obviously a lot of these points, 4 points, you got to get it down to, like, you could have 16 points and then you get nothing done, or you just focus it on some and then you got the underneath it. So I'm quite happy to support this. You know, there's nothing saying at any time a councilor can put a notice of motion on the table and say, we want to report back here. We want to look at that. Let's, you know, let's have that as a report, come back. There's nothing stopping that conversation, but I would agree with my two previous speakers, and, you know, that I don't recall us having that strong conversation about amalgamation or restructuring in the sense of the political side or the representation side. We just went through an election. I don't hear that. What I do hear is some in the wilderness say, you know, we had amalgamation 23 years ago or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, that's passed and we move on. So Mr. Warden, I would say that we move forward with this. It's a living document. You know, things change, but I think this is something that we need to approve and move on.
Okay, thank you. In the absence of any amendment, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you, Kim. Okay, do we need a break? We do? Okay, well, let's see. It is now 11:35. We'll come back at 11:45.
45 minutes from here to Thornbury.
1 minute warning. Rob, if you want to fire that machine up, please. And I get the thumbs up from Rob. I think we still, yeah, we got a quorum going on here. Okay, we need to wait for Counselor Body. Well, let's go to 6F first. We have the 2 consent items to discuss. Counselor Eccles, please.
Thank you. And I think 6F, dealing with the awarding of a tender. Last year, we went through the tender documents and whatnot. And I think it questioned whether there was any, there's set times that we needed to have, and was there any penalties for not meeting those times? And my understanding is, I guess the company that's in recommended here today, how did they handle that? And how do we get around if there was any violations from work done by this company over the years? How do we continue to do that? Because certainly from the private sector, if they weren't delivering, or if there was any history of not delivering on time or anything, probably wouldn't ask them to bid anymore. And first question is, how has been our past practice, especially in the past year with this company? And is there anything in letting these tenders that is taken into account when we have companies bidding on projects for their past performance appraisal?
Mr. Hoy, please. Pat?
Yeah, through you, Warden. Thank you, Councillor Eccles. That's a big question. We're always, trying to make all our jobs be successful. Obviously, we want every job to go well. So I will say that all our 23 construction projects reach substantial performance, some sooner than others. We do have our liquidated damages in our contract, which is 2,000 a day. And I will say that some of the contracts did not reach the completion dates, and there was liquidated damages incurred and paid in the final payment certificates. So there is, in every job, we will have our substantial performance that they reach when the job is, basically the road is back to its intended purpose, which all our jobs were this year. There is still, a list we make at the end of the year, things that aren't done. Then next year, there'll be a warranty walkthrough. So there's maybe things that happened over the winter, some of them weather-based, maybe, some of them contractor performance-based. And we'll have a list of deficiencies that will be fixed. So that being said, we also at the end of every year go through a contractor performance appraisal with every contractor. So same old thing, some are better than others for a variety of factors. Maybe the construction manager, maybe the job was easier, maybe the weather was better, variety of things. But we do try to work with our contractors to kind of fix those weak spots or things that we see that could have been better. And in some of these cases, there, we do have some work to do with the contractors to kind of bring them along a little bit. And I know the contractors that we've talked to, they take those ratings very seriously and they try to improve. Sometimes it ends up being someone different in charge of a crew the next year. The other thing I was going to mention was we kind of looked because some of the jobs, I mean, most of the jobs were good last year. You know, some of them had some struggles. We kind of looked internally at our own operations a bit as well. And with all the occupational health and safety changes with the Sudbury ruling, we have a contract administrator that starts on Tuesday, a very experienced construction person. So he's going to be out there a lot more, just kind of making sure everything is going the way it's supposed to be going, and then we pay for it to go. We train our inspectors. Our inspectors are internal. We train them every year. We've kind of put a okay. Yeah, we're doing a boot camp this year. So we always do some training, but it's just a little more intensive this year, a little more interactive, maybe a little less just telling the people what we want them to do, but getting them to fill out some of that paperwork. So we know internally, we need to be on our contractors as well. You know, and like I said, when I look at last year's jobs, some of them, the final product was quite good generally. It just probably took too long to get there or something. And they did pay for that with the liquidated damages, which is our cost recovery. So we don't have a lot of concerns. But we really are on it this year again to make sure that the jobs go well.
Thanks, Pat. I neglected to get a mover and seconder on this before we started. Someone cared, Councillor Gregg and Councillor Nielsen. Thank you. Councillor Nielsen, you had a remark or a question?
Thank you, Ward Milne. Kind of following up on Councillor Eccles' comments and through you to Pat. So we have 3 tenders available to us. How do we score the tenders? And in scoring the tenders, obviously the recommendation today is to go with the most cost-effective bid. But as part of that scoring, as part of that tendering, is it also conversation there regarding past performance of the firm and contracted company? Because I think that kind of would feed into what Councillor Eccles' concerns are.
Yeah, ours are basically price-based. Our spec has all the things that they're supposed to do. There's a provision in there that if we're in litigation with a contractor, for instance, we may not award something. We aren't in litigation with any of our contractors that bid on these jobs. So, you know, that's not really in there. I know there is other systems. When I was a consultant for MTO, you would be half your ongoing rating and half price would be the way it would work. But then if you go down that road, then you have to have someone manage the rating system. Then you have to have something where they can appeal the rating system. Then, you know, and then also it might be a job where just because you did a good job last time doesn't mean you're doing a good job this time, and you might end up spending more money to get the same product. Like, you know, we have our spec, there's our drawings, there's our quality assurance, their quality control. Our inspectors are supposed to make sure it gets built the right way. So that's kind of on us. You do wonder, I mean, there is contractors that are better than other contractors, right? So sometimes if it's a few $1,000s, you do question the system of tendering in a way. But that's kind of the public system too.
Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. My question is in regards to the road work that's being done itself, Pat. I'm glad to see that the hill to the east is being lowered for better line of sight. In our roads exchange, though, I think there's some consensus that, you know, 5 and 6 will become county roads at some point. That intersection in particular, we have had on, well, I think I've seen it on future works at that intersection possibly being a roundabout. So I guess my question is, if 5 and 6 do get converted to a county road, which will likely increase an already busy road, what are the plans for that intersection? And does this road work interfere with any future plans for that intersection?
Through you, yeah, that intersection in particular is in the DCs for a future intersection upgrade as well. There's a few in there that we added kind of in the spirit of Vision Zero, the last DC that went through. So right now, this year we're cutting that hill down a bit, or that you know, that little rise that's there. And we're also including some illumination outside the contract. So we're working now with Hydro to get some light there, just to, not that there's been no pattern to the accents that are there really, just like, it's not like it was based on the fact that it's rural, or it's kind of a random thing. But again, all those jobs that are in our DCs for intersection improvements, because I think 2 and 40 was in there as well, like Blue Mountain had asked some questions about that. Those are jobs that we need to keep moving forward to try to make sure, even though geometrically there's nothing wrong with the intersection, it's got the oversized stop signs, it's got the flashers. For whatever reason, you know, there's a lot of ongoing accidents there. And it's, you know, this year we're doing 3 and 4, which geometrically there's nothing wrong with it again, but we're doing the roundabout at 3 and 4, and then those other ones will fall in line to get done eventually at some point too. But we got to work them into our capital. They're not all in our 10-year capital yet.
Councillor McQueen.
A comment, question, and a comment. So I'm sure all construction companies are finding it challenging with retiring people that are retiring, good expert people that are leaving. So they're probably challenging with that. But if usually we see 5 to 6 companies tendering on our road projects, if a company is getting all the tenders, they can say no, can they not? So if they feel that, okay, they've met their quota and there's no way we can do it, they have the, you know, they can say, no, I'm booked up. I can't do it. And then the other side that I've seen is what happens if sometimes company A takes on too many jobs. You get close to the winter. I know there was a situation a number of years back in Grey Road 30 where it got too close and we ended up having to pay half the cost to repave it the next year. So, you know, you get closer to that end of the season because of whatever, you have the fines and the fees. What you get, winter's coming, and you know, and that was an example of Grey Road 30. I'm not sure that was 10 years ago or 12 years ago, where it went too late and it didn't stick, and we had to, the county had to pay for half of it to do it the next year. So how do you, it's more of a comment, I guess, but that maybe it's a bit of reflective maybe of last year, but company A who's getting more, they can say no.
Well, I don't have the purchasing people here, but yeah, like we have done that in the past where people have said no. And I do recall one case where they actually had to pay a penalty for that because their price was way on everybody else. It was kind of an agreement they were going to tender. But in general, we'd be pretty acceptable to some changes in the contract. Like, or sometimes they'll bring in another, like they list their subs in the contract. That being said, they can always request an additional sub too, right? So, and as far as some of that late in the year stuff, there is some of that on various jobs. Like there's a section on 7 that was paved outside of spec. It was below 5 degrees. So that we would say you can pave it because you want to, you know, to get us through the winter, but you got to come back and fix it. And sometimes hydro seeding is one that always goes. You know, you want to put the hydro seed down in, you know, late August, September. If they don't put it down till November, whatever, you know, it's not going to grow. Like there's not warm enough days. You don't want those warm days and cold nights. So that ends up, sometimes they have to go back and fix those areas. Those are under warranty and they end up doing them again. Or sometimes it will grow the next, you know, it will grow the next year. But yeah, we do have a list of deficiencies every year with our final walkthrough. We readdress in the spring. And then at the end of the season with our year warranty, we address them again.
Alrighty. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thanks, Pat. I'll come back to 6B now. Councillor Body.
I'd like to move an amendment to that. Or no, I guess I'm not doing that. I would like to move a slightly different motion than what is the recommendation, and it would be a motion to receive the correspondence from the town of Goderich and to support or adopt. I'm going to need Tara's help on that. The resolution contained therein, which is to support combining Roma and Ogre conferences, and that the warden write a letter to Roma and Ogre and copy it to the town of Goderich to show that support. It's my understanding that it was originally put together with a resolution from the county of Grey way back when, and the members voted at Ogra and at Roma to put it together. Without going back to the members, it was pulled apart, and it makes sense that it goes back together. It's more financially reasonable for all of us to attend one conference. And I always found the conferences were a heck of a lot better when you had a combination of Ogra and Roma topics to go to the sessions. So I'll need Tara's help there to fix that, but that's my motion.
Thank you. Second, Councillor DeBreen. Here, and here Sarah's got one on the screen there. Somewhere. No, not yet. She will though. Any discussion on the thought, Councillor McQueen?
Through you, Mr. Warden, to Councillor McKay. I know he's a representative that sits on Ogra. I just wondered if there's any conversations that board of getting that back together again. Through you, Mr. Warden.
Good question. Councillor McKay, do you have anything to add there? Go ahead, sir. You're muted, Terry. Nope. I can see that you're not muted, but we can't hear you. Do you know sign language? No. So the motion is on the screen. Oh, yeah, he's getting professional help here now. Okay, if there's no further discussion, Councillor Mackey, go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I completely agree with Councillor Body. Having been to the joint conference of Good Roads and Roma, it was always a very good conference, and it was unfortunate that the two associations couldn't play in the sandbox together, but they need to work out their differences and have one combined conference. Thanks.
Fair point. Councillor Gregg.
I'd just like to say that member McKay, being a board member on Ogra, I certainly hope if it's not being a topic of discussion, that he will passionately pursue it being a topic of discussion. It's an atrocious waste of taxpayers' dollars to have the two conferences separated. It's worse or more so now in the last couple of years with the escalation in hotel costs and meal costs and in registration. Every component of it is significantly more even than it was 10 years ago. So it only makes sense for the taxpayers of Ontario that Councillor McKay, we're fortunate to have him at this county and being able to advocate at Ogra to put these conferences back together for the good of all Ontarians. Resources are precious, and having conferences split apart doesn't represent or reflect just how precious resources and the taxpayers' dollars are. So hopefully in the near future, member Councillor McKay would return positive information to these chambers on advancement of such a topic.
Thank you, sir. And Terry, yeah, Terry's supportive of that. There we go. That's all we needed was that thumbs up. Very good, Terry. Okay, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. We have no closed meeting matters. Is there any other business that can come before this meeting today? Not seeing any. Any notice of motion? Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you. Through you, Warden. I just want to mention that I will be seeking to bring a notice of motion in the coming meetings, possibly as early as the first meeting in April, to seek council's endorsement for my nomination to seek election to the Amo County Caucus.
Very good. Thank you very much. And thank you for considering putting your name forward. It's always a good thing. Councillor McQueen.
Just going back to other business, can you just repeat or maybe Councillor Matchersoff, maybe she's gone, about this afternoon, about that opportunity of Great Lakes?
Sure can. It is the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. It is their quarterly meeting, as I understand it, at the Thornbury or the Blue Mountains Town Hall in Thornbury. It's open to well, we all got an invitation to it. It begins at 1 o'clock in 53 minutes. And So, yeah, you're all welcome to come to it. As far as I know, I'm attending, and so, we hope to see some of you or all of you there. And then there's a reception, there's a reception after at the Thornbury Cidery, just down the street. Councillor DeBreen.
I'm not sure, but I think pre-registration was required because of space limitations.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a good point. So Peter, I don't know if you're registered or not, but maybe. Are you going to be there?
Yeah, thank you to the warden. Pre-registration was required. I think there's gonna be about 55 people there, and spaces already, all the available spaces have already been allocated based on the pre-registration. Councilor DeBreen is correct.
All right. Thank you. Excellent. So if there's no further business, I'll ask Peter to adjourn. You'll move that. Second by Mr. Hutchison, Councillor Hutchison. All those in favor? We're adjourned.